We're back with Ray Bango, who is a security advocate for Microsoft, and with us now is Tony Panerero, who is a community manager for offensive security and a lecturer at Frederick's Fredericksburg Community College.
Frederick Community College.
Frederick Community College,
Yes.
was right the first time. So, Tony, tell us a little bit about your background in cyber. You've played hands-on cyber in high school and in college. What were some of the competitions you were involved with?
So some of the competitions I started with back in high school were Cyber Patriot. That was really a fun one, doing a red team, blue team exercises, and also completing some of the technical challenges there, and then also doing some challenges for National Cyber League as well too. They had a lot of different Jeopardy-style challenges that I liked, and moving on from high school into the college level, I actually did the CCDC, the Cyber Collegiate defense competitions. The big ones I liked to play at were MACCDC, the Mid-Atlantic, Pacific Rim, and also at the at-large CCDC. Those were a lot of fun for me when I did those.
Very cool. So you played in multiple regions.
Yes, I have. UMUC had the ability to play in different parts. This was a global campus, and I thought it would be cool to try out some of the different environments, you know, that some of the different people actually build and make, you know, and try to get understanding of how I could replicate that for my practice and my training.
Very good. What drew you to competitions, and how did the competitions develop your skills more than perhaps traditional classroom?
That's a really good question. You know, a lot of the stuff that I was learning in college was mostly, you know, writing papers, writing reports, and you know, in this field of cybersecurity, there's a lot more stuff you really need to do than just write papers. You know, you have to have that hands on the keyboard style. You know, you have to be technical with what you're doing, and you know, the only way I think I could be able to improve my hands-on skills was doing these cyber competitions. You know, trying to get into there, you know, learn about the different challenges, and also have the confidence to do them. You know, and each challenge was always different. Each category was always different, and what I would do is after my competitions, when they were over, I would save a lot of the challenges and go back to some of them that I wanted to brush up more, or like if there's some I didn't even know, I wanted to try a little bit more. I wanted to have, you know, more time to do that.
What did you like about the different types? So Cyber Patriot is a lot of system administration, hardening of systems. CCDC is a red team, blue team, when you have a live red team always attacking you. And National Cyber League's a CTF game. So how would you compare what you learned in each of those three environments?
So the one thing is, like, everyone has, each of those different CTFs, those styles are, you know, they have their different set of skills. They have their different set of areas. And it's kind of good to be well-rounded when you're going through those different types. And I think the one thing I really liked about it was I got to explore different environments. I got to be able to try out different skills and go through different things. You know, going through National Cyber League was a simple Jeopardy style. They already had the challenges ready to go. CCDC, the environment was always different every year. You know, they always changed stuff, and they always had a new red team every year. And for Cyber Patriot, they had a little bit of mix of both, right? They had, you know, some challenges to go through, and then they had the actual red team, blue team situation when you went to the nationals level. So.
And now you're involved in creating a new competition. What is it that you'd like to see in competitions that you haven't seen?
The one big issue I have when I've competed in CTFs is that a lot of these CTFs try to be, you know, about the environment. There's really no big learning purpose, you know, that I see for some of them. You know, some of the challenges that people do, they write their write-ups and then they don't release them, or, you know, they don't share information and they don't give back, you know. And a lot of these CTFs really take the time to create these challenges, and then I would like to see, you know, more write-ups and also more feedback from the community as well when they're going through these types of challenges, because I think, you know, there's always more than one way to complete a different challenge, to go through different areas when hardening systems, right? You know, everybody has their own different set of skills and knowledge, and I would like to see that a lot more, especially in this field. You know, and that's what I've done when I've created, you know, some of my CTFs is at the end of a cyber competition that I host, I'll usually give them a whole full slide deck of all the challenges, and then step by step on what to do with them. And then I'll have some of the students that go through the challenges communicate and say, oh, I did it, you know, a different way. And we'll go ahead and we'll talk about it, we'll work through it, and I'll add into the slides, you know, for everybody to see after when they're done.
Very cool. I think one of the opportunities we also have in the future with competitions is to build an audience, to be able to communicate to a non-technical audience that needs to develop an awareness of why security is important. That's something Microsoft is involved with, National Cybersecurity Awareness Month and other activities. I'd like both of you to comment on the potential of educating the general population on what cybersecurity is and how they can be part of it?
So it's interesting because I look at it from a much older perspective. Tony likes to mention that I'm very old. And so I look at it from the perspective of the children that I have and ensuring that the things that they're doing online are things that they're hyper vigilant about, that they understand that there's implications to anything they post online, things are long living, that the way that you approach your online and digital life, you have to be cognizant and cautious. It's not that you have to be scared of the digital divide, but you have to be aware that things can happen, and you also have to be aware of what you're posting on a frequent basis. I think we're so consumed with social media and building popularity contests that sometimes we overshare, and that's really critical. And that's how some of these bad actors sometimes take advantage of you to phish you or just compromise your life. And so I think it's important for the younger generation to understand that. The younger generation is the one that is doing a lot of the oversharing. And so that's where I think somebody like Tony, who can build that relationship at that level, who understands how the younger generation thinks, works, and wants to do things, how they can be safe online. Mm-hmm. I can obviously provide some context from my generation, and I love the fact that I can partner with somebody like Tony, and Tony and I are really good friends now. And he can give me his perspective on how millennials, can protect themselves as well by not oversharing, by using the right security tools. Hopefully we can get rid of things like passwords. Passwords are the bane of security. What do we do about getting rid of those? Should we use multi-factor authentication, biometrics? How do we capitalize that, and how do we explain it to a generation that may not be fully aware of it?
What has interested me for years is we all do two-factor authentication. Every one of us that has an ATM card does multi-factor authentication every time we use the card.
Right.
So we have a PIN that is easy to remember. We have a card that we have to use in addition to the PIN. So why hasn't multi-factor become a staple in everything we do?
Well, I would have to say, there's some companies that really maybe don't really believe in security. They have their issues, or maybe it's also in a cost-effective situation that they need to put in. The time and effort can be a big situation. There's a lot of things that come into play, right? And the other thing too is that I also, you mentioned that you say that everybody, uses multi-factor authentication. They might not use everything. Some services do provide it, but maybe they don't take the advantage or the opportunity to use it, or maybe they don't know about it. And I think that's something we need to educate more, not just from, coming from your standards and your age groups, but even, into the general classroom. Having a fundamental course, in our high school and our middle school. Schools that we have right now. So
I've heard the analogy that we need more airbags and less seatbelts. Seatbelts are an option, even though most people do use them. But I can get my card and I can not use them. When I'm using an ATM card, I have to.
Right.
But you're right. In a lot of other cases, they give you a choice and people don't choose it.
Right, and I think we need to educate more people about that. We need to make sure that they're aware that these things are out there. Make sure that the service or the program you're using or the product that you're using has that feature, and also question why it's not actually available. And I think that's some people are not really doing that as much.
And I love what you just said right now. Yeah. There's a lot of services that have the capabilities to go ahead and implement it. It's not, and a lot of them are concerned about the financial implications of implementing it, and also the user experience. Totally understand that. But I think sometimes we need to take that step, and whether there's a pain point for the users, but protecting those users in the long run is critical. If the user experience changes just a little bit, it's been proven over decades and decades, users adapt. So going passwordless is a great example of that. Users will adapt to that. Implementing multi-factor authentication, users will adapt to that. I can testament to myself. My wife hated multi-factor authentication, but now it's just become a part of her life because she realizes the impact of somebody breaking into one of our sensitive accounts. I think it is an educational thing. If we could start it early and get kids like in high school, middle school, aware of how to capitalize on that, it should just transition over. You and me, Dan, we're the older generation, we're kind of set in our ways, it's hard to change us. we need to focus on the generation that is adaptable and is looking at implementing the new technologies. Tony is a great example of that. I think we need to get more Tonys out there that can beat that drum and capitalize on things like MFA and stuff. Yeah, I'm right now, I'm a big advocate for hardware-based MFA, but let's capitalize on what we have. Banks, I wish banks would stop using SMS. We know that SMS 2FA is, there's an attack vector there. I'd love to see either soft tokens or hardware tokens implemented. But you know what? If they had that at least, and it gets people used to typing in a number, I'm happy with that.
And I think these events where you have something that can be watchable and entertaining are an opportunity to also promote what you can do as an individual.
That's right.
So hopefully we'll see more of that.
Great.
Yeah, I absolutely would hope so, especially in the future, and even with the younger generation, even below me. They're the future of where we see cybersecurity and IT moving forward. But even for the people who are not tech savvy, because we all use technology in our lives, and hopefully they are also going to be aware about these future technology implementations, that they could be able to be used.
I think it's also an opportunity for folks like yourself, Tony, to bring in challenges at the middle school, high school level.
Yeah.
I know that you're very, very much an advocate of cyber challenges specifically towards community colleges to give them a chance to experience at a very managed rate.
Yeah.
Instead of going against some of these really, really big name schools, give them the opportunity to experience winning against a level playing field. So I think you're a big advocate of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've also done a lot of CTFs for high schoolers in my county, and also even did some for middle schoolers as well too for Frederick County Public Schools, and they love it, they adore it, and there's a lot of things that I hope I want to push and expand more in the future for anybody in that age level to be able to try those challenges.
So I've always felt to reach that age level, we have to go more in the area of this is a sport. And today eSports have exploded.
Oh yes, absolutely.
But eSports are about kids playing on computers.
That's right.
CTFs are about kids playing on computers. So when you're in this arena and you look at what the kids are, the college students are doing today, do you start to think, hey, maybe we should try and go there?
I think so. I think we really need to push that, especially. And also, I want to push that more even in the schools as well, too, because there's not many schools that are teaching like a cybersecurity curriculum or have a cybersecurity focus or a program in place. And I want to be able to push that first and try to make that be a bigger awareness so that we can be able to provide the lecture part and also even provide the hands-on part for those students to be able to learn and then grow and then be aware about the technologies that are out there and going through these types of challenges. Esports is a very popular thing, right? We see everybody love to play Fortnite, Counter-Strike, Apex Legends, right? All those big video games that we see.
I don't know those names. Okay.
But if we can get people that are aware, they're interested, they have they get a hobby like I did. When I started in high school, I think we can move that generation forward to start playing with those types of things and maybe even seeing it into a bigger crowd. Sands Networks is one of the biggest places to do one of their cybersecurity competitions, especially for Tournament of Champions. But I haven't seen anything bigger other than DEFCON, of course, DEFCON Quals, right? Their big CTF that they have as well too. But I would like to see that, for the high school and for the middle school generation as well. Because really anybody could be able to learn cybersecurity, anybody can be able to learn information security.
And there are some that are aimed at younger audiences, Pico CTF.
Oh, of course, yes.
Specifically for middle school and high school. Tony, Ray, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.